The 2025 OKC Thunder didn't just beat teams, they actually embarrassed opponents with a record-setting 12.87 average margin of victory, which is the highest by any team in NBA history, as well as a 12.8 net rating, which is also the second best ever recorded by any NBA roster. Well, the chunk of the team's success is usually credited to their suffocating brand of defense, and rightfully so. In today's NBA, which was basically built for scoring explosions, the Thunder defended like it was the 90s. OKC put up a league-best 106.6 defensive rating, while the second-best defensive team, the Orlando Magic, put up a 109.1 defensive rating. Notably, that gap is actually the biggest between the number 1 and number 2 ranked defense that the NBA has seen over the last 25 years. But the thing is, their defense is just one part of the equation, and today I'd like to talk more about OKC's equally elite offense. They obviously have the scoring champ and one of the most efficient bucket getters in the NBA today in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but there's much more to the Thunder scoring and how they use the concepts of speed and space to their advantage on their way to winning an NBA title, which deserves much more attention. So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, and in this video, let's break down what actually offensively fueled OKC's historic season, how did the team's roster construction unlock it, and what can the rest of the NBA learn from OKC's offensive blueprint? First, let's look into the structural foundations of OKC's elite offense. The Thunder have actually built a complete offensive ecosystem which combines transition aggression with half-court execution, and this offensive structure resulted in a 119.2 offensive rating last season, which was the third best in the NBA. Well, at its core, OKC's offensive system follows a three-step hierarchy. First, hunt for high-percentage shots in transition, but if transition fails, then in the half-court, attack the rim with drives and utilize off-ball movement. And lastly, if drives stall, isolate Shai or J-Dub and let them create advantageous situations. First, let's talk about how OKC used their transition attack as a strategic advantage. Basically, the Thunder have a young roster who gets a ton of defensive stops and who can consistently push the pace with the ball, and they use that to their advantage by empowering ball handlers to run and attack before defenses are even set, while simultaneously having shooters spread all over the floor, and this has forced defenses into lose-lose situations. Collapse on OKC's ball handlers and you're allowing them to make kickouts to open shooters. Notably, OKC scored 1.22 points per possession on catch and shoots last season, which is the best in the NBA. But then, if defenders choose to stay home on shooters, they're basically conceding easy rim attacks from OKC's ball handlers. In this possession, after getting the steal, the Thunder immediately get the ball to Shai to start the attack in early offense. Right here, Minnesota's defense is all spread across the floor, leaving Alexander Walker alone in the middle to pick up Shai. By the time Shai attacks left, Randle realizes he has the stunt, but it's already too late as Shai's already drawn contact with all the space he needs to score on the end one. Then here, after grabbing the rebound, Wallace immediately finds Shai, who quickly surveys the floor while the defense has yet to be set. Right off the bat, Shai draws the attention of Bridges and Hart in the middle of the floor, while Cat, who's on the strong side, dives inside the arc. This leaves Aaron Wiggins wide open on the wing, basically left alone by the defense as he drains the transition three-pointer. It's just that the value of transition as part of a winning offense can't be denied anymore, especially in today's game. Cause looking at it, last season, NBA teams' league-wide transition offense produced a 124 offensive rating on average. That is a 9-point increase from the league-wide 115 offensive rating produced by teams out of average offense. And to put things into context, last season, OKC produced 1.17 points per transition possession, which is the fourth most efficient mark in the entire league. And they also combined that with a 19.3 transition frequency, which is also the 10th highest mark in the NBA. So basically, the Thunder had the tools to thrive in today's fast-paced game, and they actually developed a system to weaponize it. But then, OKC's offense wasn't just fueled by transition alone, as when things slowed down, the Thunder also thrive in the half-court by using a strong driving infrastructure. In half-court situations, OKC deployed the NBA's most devastating driving attack. Led by the NBA's most vicious driver in SGA last season, OKC averaged the second most drives per game in the league. But they didn't just depend on ISO ball. Instead, they deployed systematic advantage creation. Just like in transition, overload against OKC's drivers and their shooters made you pay, but there's also the threat of their cutters exploiting openings for easy shots around the rim, as OKC also ranks 6th in the league in terms of points per possession scored out of cuts to the basket. But then again, if defenders choose to stay home on shooters, they're allowing OKC's drivers some easy looks at the basket. The Thunder actually shot 67% within 5 feet of the rim last season, which was also the best mark in the entire league. Basically, constant pressure from OKC's drivers forced defenses into making constant mistakes, simply because more rim attacks forced more defensive reactions, and more defensive reactions meant more defensive breakdowns from opponents. But how specifically does OKC use that to their advantage? Well, off every drive, OKC's floor spacers use different ways to counter opponents' defensive reactions. First, they use lifts and drifts, wherein Thunder players constantly rotate from the corners to the wing or vice versa to make dishing out passes much easier for OKC's main ball handlers. Second, they also use some 45 cuts or backdoor cuts, wherein off-ball players simply take advantage of open lanes to punish ball-watching defenders. For the Thunder, this is one of the benefits of having a roster filled with multiple playmakers who can make quick decisions, as well as guys who can contribute without necessarily having the ball in their hands. Here, you can see J-Dub isolating on the corner while the Jazz are in the zone. J-Dub goes into his drive and pulls the attention of the entire defense, while on the wing, Caruso takes advantage by making the quick 45 cut right across two defenders as J-Dub finds him for the easy finish around the basket. Here, the offense starts with Chet feeding AJ Mitchell off the handoff. Mitchell takes advantage as he attacks the switch, which then triggers the slight rotation from the low-man defender. This leaves Dort with an open cutting lane on the baseline as he gets the easy bucket off Mitchell's pass. This time, Shai runs a pick-and-roll action with Hart. The defense chooses to hedge on Shai, which then forces the corner defender to tag Hart. This leaves Cason Wallace free to relocate from the corners to the wing, and while everyone is focused on Shai in the paint, Wallace becomes a last-second passing outlet as he drains the wide-open three-pointer against the late contest. As a result of OKC's efficient half-court play last season, they produced the NBA's lowest turnover rate as well as the league's best assist-to-turnover ratio. This overall synergy from OKC's roster, from their stars down to their role players, have also resulted in an NBA best 56.2 player impact estimate, which is a metric that quantifies a player's overall contribution to their team by calculating the percentage of game events that they impact. This is proof of OKC having zero weak links on their roster and how they are able to use maximal roster impact to make every drive a nightmare to guard for opponents. But then, if actually needed, OKC can also strategically use isolation and mismatch hunting to score. If defenses somehow got to slow down OKC's drive-heavy attack, their reward was unleashing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the best shot creators in basketball today and who last season was the most efficient isolation scorer in the NBA among all players to attempt more than 5 shots per game in isolation. Well, OKC utilizes Shai in a ton of different ways, ranging from walk-up isolations to elbow catches to post-ups, but probably the most dynamic way OKC deploys him is out of guard-to-guard screen situations, which they use to hunt for favorable matchups. In these guard-to-guard screen actions, the screener typically ghosts or pretend to set a screen for Shai to confuse defenders and to make communicating for them harder. This is so effective because defenders can either switch, wherein Shai can simply cook whenever he gets a mismatch, or the defense can send extra help, which then allows Shai to find someone else open on the floor. One miscue is all that it takes for the defense, and it's either Shai is already cooking around the paint, or his screener is already positioned for a wide-open catch-and-shoot jumper. Here, you can see Shai isolated against a strong defender in Ryan Dunn. Joe quickly sets the ghost screen, which now forces Tyus Jones on the switch, while Dunn is now pulled away from the ball because of Joe's presence on the wing. From here, Shai's got all the space he needs to cook the smaller defender as he creates that tough step-back jumper. Again here, with Shai on the ball, you can see J-Dub seemingly approaching to set a screen. Shai uses the diversion to begin his attack, and as you can see, one small paint rotation is all that it takes for someone to be open on the corners. So Shai makes the kick-out pass and two defenders try to close out, but Dort's already got too much space as he drains the three-pointer. Shai is able to thrive in these actions because he's just so talented that he needs no manufactured advantage to score or to create looks for teammates, and for OKC's opponents, this is basically unscoutable offense. The scary thing for opponents is J-Dub is also seemingly riding that same developmental trajectory in terms of being a shot creator, not to mention the fact that even now, the Thunder are already diversifying their offense by utilizing big man Isaiah Hartenstein as a playmaking hub through the elbows, through handoffs, or out of short roll situations. Last season, Hartenstein registered the 17.3% assist rate, which ranked in the 82nd percentile among all centers in the NBA. His advanced vision and passing ability for a big man basically fuels easy offense for the Thunder, as their guards are able to cut aggressively through Hart's reads. This secondary layer of advantage basketball further enhances OKC's ability to create easy, efficient shots even when Shai or J-Dub are not on the floor, as they can run offense orchestrated through Hartenstein in a Nikola Jokic Jokic or an Alperen Şengün-like manner. In this play, you can see Hart acting as the playmaking hub right at the top of the key where he initially tries to run a handoff for Wiggins. Fox tries to deny the action, but Hart reads the situation well. Wiggins makes the adjustment, and Hart sets him up with a laser bounce pass for the easy slam. This time, Hart sets the ball screen for Shai and he proceeds to make the short roll. Now with two players on Shai, Hart uses OKC's 4-on-3 advantage to find a gap in the defense, and before someone else can make a rotation, Hart makes the quick bounce pass to Dort in the paint for the easy finish. Quantitatively, Hartenstein's impact is staggering, as the 119.8 offensive rating he registered last season actually leads all non-SGA Thunder players, which is why overall, it's not surprising that OKC's most offensively productive 5-man lineup, which had a 187.5 offensive rating, as well as their best non-SGA 5-man unit, which had a 155 offensive rating, both included Hartenstein. Basically, this stylistic dilemma, shifting from Shai's rim attacks to Hartenstein's elbow playmaking, makes scouting OKC much more complex, as opponents must simultaneously prepare for Shai's dribble drive isolation game along with Hart's hub-initiated offense. To sum it all up, the Thunder are starting to pioneer a shift in NBA offensive philosophy. They use transition as a foundational weapon by converting defensive stops into efficient shots during early offense, but at the same time, in the half-court, they also use systematic driving as well as efficient secondary actions through cuts and catch-and-shoot looks. More than that, the Thunder constructed roster continuity around elite drivers such as Shai and J-Dub, but they also built multi-layered actions which enabled bench units to sustain elite efficiency even without their stars on the floor. But what can the NBA actually learn from the Thunder's offensive blueprint? First off, the Thunder demonstrated that for elite offenses, easy shot generation and efficiency are non-negotiable for winning. The Thunder's 41.3% catch-and-shoot three-point percentage shows that spacing isn't just theoretical, but it's actually proven to work. Also, the Thunder have prioritized attacking in early offense not just for pace, but because of its +9 advantage over average offense. Second, OKC emphasized the importance of roster construction. The fact that the Thunder featured 9 players on the roster with at least a +2 player impact estimate highlights the idea that championship offenses require a lot of contributors capable of creating advantages on the floor. Lastly, while analytics prioritizes system play, OKC still validates the importance of having elite isolation scoring, especially in the playoffs. Think of Shai, Jason Tatum, Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, and Giannis. When looking at recent NBA champions, you see that this might actually be the biggest prerequisite for winning it all. But the biggest question is, can the rest of the NBA actually do something to top or even replicate OKC's offensive blueprint? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you did enjoy this video, please do consider subscribing to the channel as well. Again, this has been Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.